Hello everyone. My name is Deputy Commissioner Jerry Rodriguez. I'm joined here with my partners, Deputy Commissioner Palmier and Kevin Davis, and Internal Affairs Chief Rodney Hill. We're here to talk about an incident that happened yesterday, February 22nd, at approximately 12:30 in the afternoon. Uniformed officers from Neighborhood Patrol Bureau in a marked police vehicle attempted to stop a car in the 1000 block of North Fremont Avenue. The stop was for a traffic-related offense. Upon stopping, the 34-year-old male, he immediately exited the vehicle. And as you will see in just a moment, he exits even before the officer is able to get out of the vehicle. The suspect rushed towards the officer. The officer attempted to back up, tactically retreat, which resulted in the officer withdrawing his weapon and an officer-involved shooting. The suspect was struck. The officer fired 4 rounds, striking the suspect multiple times. The suspect was injured and was eventually treated at a local hospital. We're going to now show you the video, and I must say I want to set this up before we show it to you. We have said from the very beginning we will continue to work on being as transparent as possible while maintaining the dignity, integrity, and compliance with state and local laws on personnel and investigations. In doing so, we have met with our state's attorney and our in-house city attorneys to make sure that we are on the right path. But the Commissioner has made it clear, as has the Mayor, that we will be as transparent as legally possible. What you will see now is the initiation of the traffic stop leading immediately up to the officer-involved shooting. That is the lone officer, the suspect. You'll see how he pulls in. Show it one more time and possibly a little bit slower. Once again, you see the driver exiting before the officer's door opens. Pauses for a minute. And the rest is pretty evident. We will be providing each of you a copy of this. I could tell you that following this encounter, additional units responded. The suspect was also tased as they tried to take him into custody. The suspect was eventually restrained and transported to a local hospital where he underwent surgery. As is customary in these officer-involved shootings, our force investigation team responded and has conducted what is a thorough preliminary investigation of the crime scene, the evidence, the witnesses. It is in its very early stages, and we continue. We have met as late as this morning with the state's attorney's office, and we're sharing and providing all of our information, as well as making sure that our investigation is thorough and that we work hand in hand so that they have a complete and thorough investigation when we hand it over. As I stated earlier, our goal is to be as transparent as possible, and that's why we're going through these links here. Our primary focus is to conduct a thorough and impartial investigation that gets at one thing, and that's the truth of the matter. We encourage and we ask that any witnesses that have not already been interviewed that witnessed this incident or were present during this incident to please contact us, and we will provide you also with a number where they can contact us. We'll now open to any questions you may have.
What was the moving violation?
We will get that for you. We have not, as you know, interviewed the officer yet. So while we know that it's a traffic stop, a traffic violation, we have not been able to interview the officer yet.
Bullet first or tase first?
The officer discharged his weapon prior to the tasers being deployed.
So the officer shot him 4 times and then he was tasered. Find another officer arrived on the scene?
There were several additional officers that responded to the radio call, and what you witnessed here was the closed-circuit camera that is monitored through the city. And when the officers monitoring those cameras hear of the traffic stop, they then take control of the camera, and that's why you saw it being focused manually by an officer. As a result of the encounter, the officer broadcast a help call, which resulted in a number of officers responding to the scene. Those backup officers attempted to restrain the individual, which resulted in the taser being deployed.
Was there dash cam video?
There was no dash cam video.
Will there be an autopsy or toxicology?
Well, the gentleman is still alive.
Oh, he's still alive.
Yes, sir, and he has undergone surgery. He is still in stable condition at a local hospital. We will gather as much information as possible. I think it's safe to say that this individual was clearly going through some sort of a crisis, and we're trying to identify exactly what that may have been that contributed to this behavior, which I could tell you in my nearly 30 years of policing is very unusual and appears to be very threatening, very menacing.
Are there any charges against the suspect?
There will be charges. Yes, sir, there will be charges. The individual was shot in his upper torso multiple times.
Were there any officers involved?
Were they injured or in any way? Any officers injured?
Not physically injured. The officer was not physically injured.
From what you know, can you walk us through the narrative? Obviously, we saw that point. After that, he's chasing after the officer. What happens next?
The officer discharges his weapon.
So was able to turn around and then discharges the weapon at pretty close range, would you say?
I think you saw what we showed there. Within a second or two, there's a discharge of the officer's weapon. I think what you witnessed there, if we both saw the same thing, is you see the driver charging towards the officer backstepping, backpedaling, what I would call a tactical retreat. We teach our officers to try to maintain distance from the suspect for their safety and for ours, and we saw how quickly that distance was decreased by the suspect's forward motion.
And despite being shot 4 times, did he attack the officer still? I mean, what required him being tased? Is he still coming at him? That's what
Those are good questions, and that's exactly what we need to develop the answers to. I could tell you what we do know today and what our policy is. The tasers are deployed to either overcome resistance, to effect an arrest, and in this case, the officers were trying to effect an arrest of an individual who was still combative. The details of that resistance and the efforts and what was in the officer's mind at the time, we're still in the early stages of gathering all of that.
Can you show us the video of what happened after the point that stopped?
There will come a time where you will see that video. That video right now is directly connected to a criminal investigation, an administrative investigation, and we're precluded from doing that.
But this
Julia,
video is
you
okay
have
to
a
show.
question? Excuse me, Julia, you have a question? Yeah. Were there any weapons found on scene? Do you have any idea if the suspect?
The suspect was not armed.
Not armed. And,
That's correct.
Did the officer make any verbal commands?
All of those questions, what was in the officer's state of mind, what the officer may or may not have said, will be obtained once we interview the officer. What we try to do is gather as much information leading up to the interview with the officer before we interview the officer. That interview will happen pretty soon.
What's the idea of the suspect?
That will be released once he is charged.
Last question.
Did you find out what Trayvon Scott, the last person who was arrested, what he died of? I know it was some sort of, it could have been an asthma condition, could have been a health-related thing, situation that occurred on Valentine's Day.
You're speaking about the individual who fled
Right.
from the officers. As I stand here today before you, I have not seen an ME's report on the cause of death.
Thank you, sir.